Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Safe Recovery Practice. I'm honored that you're here. My name is Bruce Whittemore, and I'm an advanced EFT practitioner, holistic recovery coach, and the co-founder of the Safe Recovery Practice. Perhaps most importantly, I'm someone who has been walking my own recovery journey for more than 3 decades. I want to welcome you here if this is your first time, and welcome you back if you have checked out some of the other videos that I've put up on this channel. In the last couple of conversations that we've had, we explored two important ideas. First was the philosophy behind the safe recovery practice. And then the second video, we explored why safety is so important and why safety comes first before anything, and how our nervous system is continually asking one fundamental question: am I safe? And we also talked about three pathways that help create safety in our lives. The first is our bodies. The second is the environments that we're in, that we grow up in, that we live in. And the third is our language, how we live, how we use language today. And I'd like to spend a little time exploring this third pathway around language, because I believe language matters. The language we use matters. Language has the power to create safety, and it also has the power to reinforce narratives, belief systems that no longer serve us. The words we use shape how we see ourselves. They shape how we interact with others. They shape the questions we ask. They shape the stories we tell ourselves. And ultimately, they shape what we believe is possible. As I shared previously, several years ago, the phrase safe recovery came to me in a dream, and then it became the safe recovery practice. And at the time, I really didn't fully understand the words and what they meant to me. And over time, those words evolved over the years, and they've continued to reveal themselves one word at a time. And today, I'd like to spend some time with the second word, which is recovery, and how that has evolved over time and what that means for the safe recovery practice, for you, for me, and how we look at the word recovery. And for many of us, recovery immediately brings up the idea of addiction, compulsive behaviors. Of course, there's other meanings of recovery, but for the context here, that's what we're talking about, is this idea of recovering from repetitive compulsive behaviors that we also call addictions. And that's certainly understandable to think of recovery that way. And recovery has long been associated with alcohol, with drugs, with recovering from gambling, recovering from food addiction, and many other compulsive behaviors. And there's recovery communities that are dedicated to those particular addictions and behaviors that have helped millions of people, including me. And I have tremendous respect for them. But over the years, I found myself looking at recovery through a much broader lens. I believe that recovery and the way we see recovery belongs to all of us, no matter where you are on the spectrum. Every one of us is recovering from something. Those things could be the addictions that we're recovering from, the compulsive behaviors, but they can also be painful experiences, recovering from loss, recovering from fear, perhaps from shame, and the beliefs that we've carried for years. And looking at it through that lens, imagine that all of us are recovering in some way, somehow. And I'd like to invite you just to pause for just a moment and think about, what does the word recovery mean to you? Has that meaning of recovery changed over the course of your lifetime? Have you seen it different? Has the lens expanded? One of the symbols that has become deeply meaningful to me is an artichoke. We're all familiar with peeling back the onion, but the artichoke has much greater meaning, in my opinion, than an onion. And I'll talk much more about the metaphor around an artichoke in a later video. But today I'd just simply like to offer it as a metaphor. An artichoke has a heart, and then it has a choke, which is on top of that heart. I love artichokes, by the way. If you've ever eaten an artichoke, peel back the petals, you clean out the choke, and the heart is underneath all that. It has many protective leaves around it, those petals. And the more I reflected on recovery over time, over the past couple of years, the more I've found myself returning to that image. At the center is the heart. And to me, that's our authentic self. That is the part of us that can't be broken. Not something we have to create, not something that we have to earn. It's something that's always been there, and it's underneath all of that. It's underneath the choke. And the choke I see as the place of our original wounds or beliefs and burdens, these unmet needs that have become intertwined, where what has happened to us begins to shape where what we come to believe about ourselves is in that choke that is above and on top of the heart. And that may sound something like, I'm not enough, these beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not safe enough. I don't matter. I have to earn love. And I'd just like you to take a moment to invite you to notice, is there one belief you've carried so long that it simply feels true? So there, from that belief system, from that choke, is where these protective parts of us start to emerge. They become the leaves of the artichoke, the petals that have protective little spines on the top of them. One part may discover alcohol, and become a part of you that protects you from what's underneath. Another food, another part or another leaf could become perfectionism. Another leaf could become a part of you that's a people pleaser. Maybe another one is work and this addiction to work. Maybe another is distraction, needing distractions. These are all parts of us that have been developed around the heart, around those original wounds. And they're trying to help. And each part, this is a shift in looking at things differently and reframing how we see these parts of us. Each part believes it's protecting us. It's trying to protect us from experiencing the original pain again. Those leaves aren't the problem. They're intelligent, protective parts that developed because at one point in our lives, they needed to. They needed to protect us. And they've grown over time and become thicker. And that artichoke has become bigger and more protective around the heart. So I'd like to invite you to just become curious. Can you recognize one protective part that has worked especially hard on your behalf? Try not to judge it. Don't get rid of it. Don't push it aside. Simply see if you can notice it. See if you can connect with it. And this is going to sound strange, but even if it's possible to say thank you to it, because it has actually protected you from what's underneath. And over time, yeah, I know that one's a hard one, but over time, those protective parts start to become so familiar that they begin to feel like who we are. And that those parts aren't who we truly are. Famous Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung expressed this idea that what remains unconscious will continue to influence our lives until we bring it to consciousness, until it is brought to awareness. And I believe that that's what recovery is really about. It's this idea of gently bringing those hidden parts of us into awareness, not with shame and not with force, not with judgment, but with safety, and also with curiosity and with compassion. So as these protective parts begin to feel seen and heard and understood, they no longer have to work so hard. And the leaves begin to soften, begin to able to peel those leaves back. And those old narratives that we believed about ourselves, that we believed about others, they begin to loosen. And slowly, small steps, we create this space that allows the heart to start emerging. There's one more thing about the artichoke that fascinates me. If it's left to mature, the choke eventually gives rise to a beautiful purple flower. I've often wondered if there's a metaphor there too. Perhaps our deepest wounds, when met with enough safety and compassion and curiosity and understanding, can become places of wisdom and transformation. We'll explore that another time, and we'll also explore some tools and techniques for feeling safe in future videos. For today, I'd simply leave you with 3 invitations. First, what am I recovering from? And what does recovery mean to me? Second, what am I recovering toward? And what protective part of me has been working the hardest to help me survive? It's an important question. What protective part of me has been working the hardest to help me survive? Thank you for spending this time with me. If this conversation resonated with you, I'd love to invite you to subscribe here on YouTube or join me over on my Substack channel, where these reflections begin as a written conversation and then expanded a little bit before they become videos like this. So until next time, thank you and peace.